Welcome everyone to the Proven Knowledge Podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Church. I'm a music producer from Northeast Ohio. I began this weekly interview series to give you different perspectives from artists, producers, engineers, and other individuals in the music industry. In each episode, we touch on not only what has helped the person succeed, but we also touch on what has shaped them into the person that they are today. I hope you're able to gain some real proven knowledge from the show, and that it helps elevate you on your own journey to success as well. Let's get into it. Welcome everyone to episode 202 here on the Proven Knowledge Podcast. Today I welcome back another part 2 guest. She was originally on episode 114 in 2022. Sofia Gillani, London artist, one of the hardest working artists I've seen out there. She's always promoting her music on different blogs, podcasts, what have you. Her manager Tapaz reached out to me a couple years ago, and that's how we initially got in touch, had a cool conversation, and it was great to catch up with her this week. She talked about working on a new EP that's going to be coming out later this year, the song Levels, the story behind that, and why it's so different from things she's done in the past. She also talked about how she's evolved over the last couple years as an artist, and how, she will eventually have other goals within the art world as well, specifically doing dance, things like that, and what she uses to reset and recharge on the daily, and just talks about her relationship with her family, how that positively influences her music as well. A lot of cool things, and I'm grateful to just be able to have this connection with her. Like I said, just seeing her do her thing continuously and just really put the passion and the work behind her craft is very inspiring. So I hope you guys enjoy this episode, and without further ado, let's get into it. So welcome everyone to episode 202 here on the Proven Knowledge Podcast. Today we have another part 2 guest episode. She was originally on 114 about a year and a half ago. Incredible artist who, to me, is one of the most hardworking artists I've seen. She's always on blogs, always on podcasts, doing a lot of cool things. Out of the UK, please welcome back Sofia Gillani. How are you doing today?
I'm doing really, really well. How are you?
I'm doing great. And like I said, happy to have you back on the show. And I know that, a lot has probably happened for you even in the last couple of years. But we'll start out with, if people didn't hear that first episode, that first conversation we had, just reintroduce yourself, let people know, like, how long have you been doing music? How'd you get into it? All that good stuff.
So, yep, if you don't already know, my name is Sofia Gillani. I'm a singer-songwriter from London, but I'm actually based in Surrey right now. I have at least 8 singles out right now, 9. And I've recently released a new song called Levels, but I think at the time, episode 114. Which single was?
I honestly forget because I didn't listen back to the episode. I'd have to go check.
Yeah.
It was whatever came out around the summer of 22. So if you can remember that far, but
I think that was kind of the emergence of, like, I'm gonna say, like, Water and Dry definitely popped off on that year.
Yeah.
It's actually my favorite single. As well as, let's say, LED around there.
Probably, yeah. If I remember correctly.
But yeah, my genre, I'm quite experimental. Mainly pop and R&B, but, every song is never the same. And right now I'm currently working on an not EPQ, an EP. Sorry,
close.
EPQ.
Yeah, close.
I'm currently working on an EP, which I'm really excited to release further on down the year.
Awesome. Well, like I said, happy to have you back on the show. And yeah, it's crazy because I feel like when you work on so much stuff and you're always doing things, and I know for you do, like I said, a lot of interviews and things like that, it's probably hard to keep track of all this stuff. And like you look back and you're like, oh, I've done so much since then. It's kind of hard to remember what I was doing at that point in time. You know what I mean? But I think it's great to see that you're still like doing so much, because I'll get on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. I always see you still responding to blogs and like sharing your single with people, and I'm just like, I see you putting in the work all the time still, no matter what. So I think that's definitely something to admire. And for you over the past couple years since we last talked, how do you think you've evolved as an artist? Really just from maybe the creation of your music or performing or any aspect of your career. How do you think you've, evolved, and where do you think you've come since that point?
Yeah. I think as an artist, I've definitely learned to step more into myself. I feel like, especially with songwriting, the messages are starting to get deeper and deeper and deeper, and they're starting to delve into more intimate pieces of my personality, as well as what I'm experiencing in normal day-to-day life. In terms of performing, I mean, I'd like to say that my stage presence, it's always been such a fun experience performing, but I feel like now, I can really appreciate every time I go on stage, because it's always, it's always going to be fun, but you always, like, I learn something new every gig, which is something so, like, cool to say, to sing my songs, especially the new ones coming up. Like I said, they're different parts of my personality. To sing those in front of people, you tend to, like, kind of have a weird out-of-body experience with it, and you kind of, like, think, oh my god, as I'm performing these, because, the set list, they're, like, songs that you've done from the beginning, and then songs that you've just released. You're, like, you really start to think, wow, like, me as a person, I've changed. And also, I'd like to think that my music taste is expanding more and more and more, especially since, nowadays, like, the music industry is quite diverse. I'd like to say that my music taste is evolving, and with that, my music is. Yeah. So, as well as my general musicality, I'm, putting more of myself into my music, which could be, so dear to me that you think, oh gosh, you don't want to control it too much. Yeah. But I think right now for me, it's a positive sentimentality.
Yeah. I think that brings up because I just had this thought while you were talking, a good question about being able to perform certain songs that are older, maybe the songs that are at the beginning of your career. Like, do you think as you go on, you're ever going to get to the point where you're just like, I don't want to do that certain song because I'm not in the same place I was at the time I made it? Or is it just going to be like, someone hasn't heard this yet, just because I'm not feeling it, it doesn't mean that it's not going to help someone else. Like, have you ever thought about that? And have you ever experienced that yet?
Yeah. I have, yeah. But, I mean, some of them I just have fun too. Yeah. If I'm really honest, I'll just bop out with them. I'm like, dude, this is, the nostalgia you feel with certain tracks. You're like, oh my god, this used to be me. You know what, why not just put it out there? But I think definitely on my first single, which was Ain't a Game, like, that's, in terms of gigs, that's not on the set list as much anymore, because my voice as well in that first single, so young, and I feel like my voice is, like, deepened a bit. So when I sing it, I'm like, oh, it's like, ooh.
Not quite the same.
Yeah. And I feel like I enjoy singing my more up-to-date songs, but whatever really calls me. You never know. I could, like, have a similar emotion to, like, a song I previously did, and I'm like, just do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
all about the vibe. It's all about what feels natural.
Yeah, I like that a lot, for sure. And I know you said about how the new music it feels a lot more personal to you, and you're delving more into your life and the stories that have happened in your life. So with that, I can imagine there comes a bit of, I don't want to say like a more serious approach to it, because it is something very important to you. But how does that go with, like, songwriting per se? Do you feel like you are trying to perfect these songs more, or the process has still just been very seamless in how you're doing it? Or as you go, it's like, well, we're telling a different story now than we were a few years ago, so I feel like I got to approach it just a bit differently. Like, have you felt any pressure in that way, or it's kind of just still been, you just run with whatever feels right?
At this rate, I used to have this one set process where I would feel something, note it down, that was it, and then develop that later. Nowadays, I feel like when I want to make music, I really not just, like, go with that process, but I take the time to sit down. But not only, I don't songwrite with just myself. I like to songwrite and then show it to my dad now and be like, what do you think of it? And just kind of hear. I've shown some of my lyrics to my family and stuff, because some of it is simply just so personal. So I definitely say that some of my songs, especially in the EP coming up, they're a lot more in their messages refined. They're a lot more elegant. They're a lot more, you know, just kind of storytelling instead of just simple, vague but can relate lyrics. It does take a toll when it's something that is really personal, but at the same time, I've always seen music as a healing process. So when I sit down in the studio, you know, Dad's always there. You're singing. You like take a moment. You're like, you know, what works well, what doesn't. What is the sound that I want to produce now? And I feel like that's really important with my upcoming songs and with songs that I've, you know, that I just kind of sing in the bank and are like, you know, waiting for their time.
Hey there, hope you're enjoying the episode so far. I just wanted to take a quick minute out to let you know about a couple different ways that you can support the podcast. One of the ways is by clicking that support the podcast button within your streaming platform. That is if you want to be a monthly supporter of the show. You can contribute either 99 cents, $5, or $10 a month. So that's the first way, and that's the more traditional way that we've had now for the last couple years. The other method that we actually just recently introduced is from our good friends over at Ko-fi. Ko-fi is a virtual tip jar. We have set our limit to a minimum of $10, but you can go make one-time, one-off donations. So if you visit ko-fi.com/the Proven Knowledge Podcast, you'll be able to donate. And all these different forms of donation go towards getting new guests every single week, getting potential sponsors on board to do giveaways, and overall just making the show better for you guys. So if you want to do that Ko-fi link, it's ko-fi.com/the Proven Knowledge Podcast. Otherwise, again, look for that support the podcast button in your streaming platform if you'd like to be a monthly supporter. And I just want to say thank you guys for your contributions. And without further ado, let's get back into the episode. It's really the best form of therapy at the end of the day, in a way, you know what I mean? Yeah. Being able to get it out there, and then obviously people can relate to that in their own way. Even if it's not their direct experience, you know, people have similar experiences, which I think is obviously why we do this at the end of the day anyway. So definitely important information there. And I do want to talk about the EP, but first let's talk about Levels, which was the single that you put out in January. I listened to it. I love the combination in the production styles, because I feel like it has some pop elements. It's melodic, but it also has like drill percussion. Like, it felt like a very drill vibe. So, like, where did the inspiration come from for this song?
That song holds... I was talking about how personal my songs are, but that song is just... In making it was such a fun experience. It has... The verses have rap, right? Never done rap, right? Never done rap. But today, on that day, I thought, you know what? I'm just going to give it a go. And it was so much fun. You're trying something new. I was doing it, and it took me a few tries, because I was like, oh my god, I gotta get some like confidence in here. I gotta really channel what I want to channel. And I was feeling quite sassy that day. But Levels is a lot more fun in its message. It's playful. It's chill. But at the same time, like when we were playing it, when it was done, we were in the studio. All of us were like, what? You know, we were like, what happened? Because this is completely. You know, Sophia would, like, a year ago, 2 years ago, Sophia would never do rap. Now Sophia's doing rap, jazz, and all of the above. So it's kind of just realizing that music is so limitless. I feel like we're constantly progressing, and, like, through Levels itself, like, the actual message of Levels, it's development. It's literally development. It's pop, it's drill, it's just... it's one of my favorites. And we play it in the car, you know, especially after it was released. Like, we did like a little car kind of jamming sesh. And like, even me and my friends, we were just like, wow. So, you know, performing it as well, it's just, it's hard to, it's like, you know, I'm trying to get the words out, but it's just such energy. If that makes sense.
I was going to say the car test is like a must. I feel like you got to do that for everything. But that song in particular would have went pretty hard. Like, no lie. But
Thank you.
That's
Thank
pretty.
you.
That's pretty awesome, and yeah, it definitely caught me as a listener by surprise because I was like, oh, I could tell that was a different type of route that you went compared to like
Yeah.
you said the previous material. So like that leads into this EP, and I don't know like is Levels going to be included in this EP? Are we expecting the same type of energy from that and like some variations in styles? Like what can you tell us about this project and what to expect?
We definitely have a few styles in it. I can probably vouch that you probably will be as surprised from a different genre perspective as how the levels will be in it.
Okay.
There's actually there's CDs being made of it right now and everything, and I've like seen like through the whole process. It's been so great. But the actual tracks itself, like they're all in a way they're all little parts of me. The EP. Oh, should I announce the title? Oh, I'll give you the exclusive on that.
Okay.
But the title of the EP makes so much sense when you see it. When I'm allowed to say it and not blabber everything, it makes so much sense. There's definitely more melodic pieces. There are some sad pieces, which I have cried making, but that's completely fine. Therapy, like we were saying.
Yeah.
But I think in general, there's like some like really like bass hitting. If you remember Monster was quite a kind of beat. There's some more of that. But yeah, there are a few tracks that we have already released, but always more to come.
Yeah. Well, I'm definitely thrilled and excited for it. Do you have like a timetable? Like you're looking at summer, you're looking at spring. Can you reveal any of that? Maybe not a date, but a time of year. Can we get that?
Oh, okay. Well, one of the tracks from the EP will be released before the EP is, and it's called WIN. Really excited. That'll be coming around April.
Okay.
But the EP will definitely be later this year. But
Okay.
it's still, it's because I feel like it just needs to be finished.
Yeah.
Like, finished. But definitely, let's say summer, autumn time. You
Okay.
can expect that.
Second half of the year, probably.
Yeah.
Okay.
You'll be like, huh? What was it? Yeah.
Well, definitely excited for it. And are there any like collaborators you're working on the project with that you want to shout out on the episode today?
In terms of producers, yes, but I'm still talking to a few people in terms of collaborations. So not at the moment.
Okay.
We haven't got an official one, but definitely talking.
Okay. Well, that could be for a later time then. Maybe when we come back, part 3, we'll have more to talk about for sure, and a lot more music too.
Yeah,
So
I released
yeah.
Holy P, and I've done this and that.
It's very exciting, and that goes back to the levels thing. Just keep going up levels, literally. So
Yeah.
super cool, and I do want to shift to being able to manage all these things that you've been doing, and recently, for you, what does it look like to have a break during the day? Like, what are you doing when you're not focused on music, writing, recording, performing, all this stuff? What have you been doing to kind of reset and recharge to keep going?
I have to say, I'm really, really, not in a hippie way, connected with nature. Me and my family, we're a huge fan of nature. We do hiking. We're very, like, reset and fresh air. And that's definitely given me, like, a clear perspective on certain things, just kind of relaxing. I'm all about the sun, but in the UK, the sun only comes out once every 5 months. So, when we go out to nature, we, really make the most of it.
Yeah.
Apart from that, though, it definitely is a school, like college, work-life balance as well. Hanging out with my friends and, really in the academia side of things. But I do subjects, like my A-levels, which are English Lit, history, stuff that's quite immersive in, like, the history of music, let's say. And you kind of, even if it's not directly influenced in my music, it's always to reset and to look at different pieces of work, in, like poets, etc. It's so refreshing to me, and it's honestly quite inspiring.
Yeah.
So nature, college, and my cat.
Yeah. It's like a trifecta right there. It kind of keeps
Exactly.
things balanced and keeps things making sense, I guess. So
Yeah.
that's definitely very important. And as far as like other endeavors too, outside of even doing music, and it kind of ties into what we talked about on the first episode with like looking 10 years ahead, looking, back 10 years, things like that. But are there any other endeavors, could be creative endeavors, that you ever view yourself getting into? And it might be something that complements like your career as a musician, or it could be something like unrelated. Is there anything else you're getting into or want to get into, see yourself doing?
Well, I'd have to say, if I really think about it, in the future, maybe aside from music, I would really like to get into the more like theater side of things, like dancing and like physically like being artistic, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I just actually, you reminded me in our last episode. I remember saying something about like I've always wanted to release like body. I remember it's like an album or something. And while it's not an album, I'm working on an EP right now, which is really crazy. Very side note, but I'd say from now, musically, just keep doing what I'm doing. But outside of music, kind of just staying true to myself. That is, as I grow, it's very easy for me to like kind of mold into today's society, and with everything going on in media, etc. I want to stay true to myself, and I also want to get into like dancing more. If that makes sense. Like, because then also like it coordinates to like stage presence, and it kind of like it's another way to enrich my cultural passions.
Yeah.
My God, that was so.
No, it all made perfect sense though. It definitely did. And I do remember you talking about like wanting to put out a full body of work too on the last episode. So to see that goal now coming to fruition, definitely super awesome. And I know for you that's got to be very fulfilling as well. And I actually heard, I don't even know what interview I was listening to recently about, is specifically about musicians and how like trying other art forms, even if you're just not even good at it to begin with, can like be such an outlet to give you energy in your music career too. So like people would go and just like paint a picture, even if it looked like awful, you know what I mean? Just to do it, just to like get it out there.
Styling.
Yeah, but it's like they still would do it and just like be like, oh, I can go in here with no knowledge on what I'm doing, but it feels good. It feels right. You know what I mean? And then like when you come back to doing what you have done for years, it's like it seems more seamless. So maybe that could be something that happens for you too, with dance and things like that. So definitely cool to think about. But do you have anything else you want to let people know about before we get out of here? Anything to look out for?
Just keep looking at the socials. Sofia.anisa.Gillani, Instagram, the most updated social media. I've got some gigs coming up soon. Really, really exciting. On the 14th of April, I've got Hazelmere Sessions, which will be really fun. And then leading up to that, on the 5th of July, a big festival in Hazelmere Fringe. I'll be playing main stage, so keep out for that. And we actually have a few more dates for certain gigs coming up later this year. And WIN. So look out for a new single coming before an EP.
Awesome. Well, I got to say once again, Sophia, thank you so much for rejoining the show. And definitely, like I said, keep up the hard work. 'Cause I see you all over the place all the time, just promoting, going hard for what you believe in and what you're doing. So keep it up. And if you ever want to come back for a part 3, like I said, let me know. I'm happy to have you on. So.
Yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity to come back. And this was really, really fun. I really, really enjoyed it.
Thanks everyone for listening today. That was episode 202. We'll be back this time next week. As always, hit the support button on your podcast streaming platform if you'd like to send any funds. And feel free to leave us that 5-star rating if you enjoyed today's episode. So we'll see you then. Thanks guys.